is to try to get the NDAA approved without any extraneous matters included in it. We've done this for 60 straight years, and I don't think this ought to be the first year that we don't achieve passing an NDAA. With regard to government spending, time is ticking. We have not been able to agree on a top line yet, and I think it's becoming increasingly likely that we may need to do a short-term CR into early next year. We're running out of time, and that may end up being the only option left that we could agree to pursue.
In South Dakota, the Public Utilities Commission is basically telling people that expect heating costs to go up this year. And nationally, the National Energy Information Administration is saying that heating your home this year is going to increase 28%, and that's on top of double-digit increases last year. And I think you can attribute all of this to the lack of a coherent energy policy by the Biden administration. And so the question is, what can we do to bring energy costs down? And I think one is adopt an all-of-the-above energy strategy that is American energy independence. When I say all of the above, I'm talking about oil and gas and biofuels and nuclear and wind and solar and all of the above. Unleash American energy production in this country and quit turning outside the United States for our energy needs. Secondly, is to end the hostility that this administration has toward oil and gas production in this country. They have adopted this agenda called the ESG agenda, Environmental, Social, and Governance agenda, which is designed to limit or prevent production or investment in production in certain areas of our economy, namely oil and gas. And we would also argue in farm country, agriculture, farms and ranches. And what I'm going to do later this week is I'm going to be asking the administration, before they implement any of these policies, to look at the impact that these ESG policies are going to have on the cost of food and energy in this country. I think the American people deserve to know how much these policies coming out of this administration are impacting the cost of everything that they buy on a daily basis. That kind of analysis, to me, makes a lot of sense. I think the American people believe that, and I think they also believe that this administration's policies are driving up the cost of energy in a way, in this country, in a way that is harming the pocketbooks of American families all across the United States.
Joe Biden's decision to turn to Venezuela for energy is wrong, and it is reckless. It's bad policy. It's bad energy policy, it's bad environmental policy, and it's bad foreign policy. Joe Biden is inviting corrupt and abusive dictatorship to produce energy and sell it to America. At the same time, he's telling American energy workers, no drilling here. And that's why the American public is going to be paying more and more this year to heat their homes than ever before. And you're going to be hearing story after story about families who have had to turn down the thermostat and bundle up because they can't keep up financially in the Joe Biden economy. The costs are very high for energy, to the point that 20 million Americans have already fallen behind in paying their heating bills for this winter. The Americans know what they want. They want energy that is affordable, available, and reliable. And Joe Biden continues to wage war on American energy. Just this past week, the state of Wyoming filed suit again against this administration for failing to follow the law when it comes to oil and gas leasing. We have an abundance of energy, and we have the workers here in America to power our country. And yet Joe Biden prefers to go to a human rights ignorer, abuser, and an ally of Vladimir Putin, rather than using the energy we have here. And I would point out to the President, from an environmental standpoint, we do a much better job of producing that energy here in America than they do anywhere else around the world. President Biden doesn't understand the basic fundamental concept that we can protect the environment without punishing the economy. And as a nation, we're much better if we produce our energy to use it here and sell it to our friends than if we end up having to buy it from our enemies.
Well, later today, I'm going to go to the floor and give what may not be my last speech on the Senate floor, but at least is officially my farewell speech. Of the 26 years I've been here, the first 13, the first half of that 26 years, we still took these appropriations bills to the floor, one at a time or two or three at a time. We would debate them for days. We would then send them over to the Senate and have this almost unknown quantity now, the conference committee. Even my first year in the Senate, Senator Cole from Wisconsin and I took the Ag FDA bill to the floor, the Labor H bill, and Senator Mikulski were with us, and there was one other bill. We had more than a week to debate that bill and for members to make the suggestions they wanted to make. Now here we are again, this 10-year pattern of letting this all come down to one big bill. Nobody's had, if you're not an appropriator, you've had virtually no input on even what's being talked about to go in the final bill, and nobody has a chance to do anything on the floor but vote up and down. For 220 years, the principal work of the Congress was to debate how we spent our money and how we raised the money that we would have to spend. That was a formula that worked pretty well for a long time. It gave members a reason to be here. Now, year after year, we wonder what's going to come out of a room that nobody has any access to. The leaders don't benefit from that. The members don't benefit from that. And certainly the people of the United States of America and the world don't benefit from the way we're doing business now.
Days are rapidly slipping away until the end of the year, and in these few days, we have to come up with an NDAA that will make it through the House, the Senate, and be signed into law by the President. The way we do that is by focusing on the National Defense Authorization Act and related provisions. The Democrats and this administration have frittered away the days of this Senate calendar so that we are now restricted to these few days until the end of the year. But they have so many liberal priorities they want to get done, so what are they doing? They are trying to throw unrelated liberal priorities onto the National Defense Authorization Act, literally holding our men and women in uniform hostage over their priorities. My message to Leader Schumer, to the President, is that we need to get the NDAA done and make sure that it is focused on the defense of our nation. We only have a few days to get it done. So stop with the nonsense. Focus on our military and our national defense. And to that end, you may see I'm wearing my U.S. Army pin. And many of you may know that at the end of this week, on December 10th, this Saturday, in just under 4 days, will be the 2022 Army versus Navy football game. Now, I'm an Army fan, and I'm rooting for the Army team. But let me tell you, folks, this is an extraordinary game when we know that all of the young men that are representing their teams down on the field, they are all willing to die for every last one of us. So choose your team, folks. We want to hear from you on Saturday. But from me, go Army, beat Navy.
Well, most importantly, go Navy, beat Army. So it's pretty clear who's going to win. I feel sorry that Army won't have a great game this weekend, but that happens every year. But I want to thank everybody in our military for what they do every day. They put their lives on the line. They're subject to whatever rules that their leaders put in place for them, and they go defend our freedom. The most important part of our military is not the equipment we give them. It's the individuals that are willing to serve. And right now, what the Biden administration has done with this vaccine mandate and how they've handled military members concerned about either health issues or religious issues is wrong. The NDA needs to be an NDA that's focused 100% on our military. We need to have a provision that says that the Biden administration cannot continue to require the COVID vaccine, and if you've been kicked out, you ought to be reinstated. I think we all agree the NDA has got to get done, and we got to take care of our military members. On top of that, we need to do a review of how the Biden administration has actually treated our military members, and actually, with their policies, have they actually allowed people to exercise their religious freedom and their concerns about their health issues.
Leader McConnell. Leader McConnell.
Chad.
Good afternoon. I want to clarify what you're saying about a short-term CR here. I know you said earlier at the meeting in the White House you wanted to do an omnibus here. Kevin McCarthy indicated just the past couple of days that he prefers a short-term CR, so when the House is in control. You haven't changed your position here based on what McCarthy says. This is based on the reality of time, or what?
Well, as I tried to say earlier, we're running out of time and we don't have agreements to do virtually anything, which would only leave us with the option of a short-term CR into early next year. So I'm dealing with the practical situation, which is, number one, as others have pointed out, they are, in my judgment, screwing up the NDAA by trying to drop a lot of unrelated things on it. And then on the omnibus, we don't even have an overall agreement on how much we're going to spend, and we're running out of time. That's the main point.
But nothing because of what McCarthy said.
We're running out of time. There's only so much you can do with the time that's left, which leaves you only potentially with the option of a short-term CR into early next year.
Leader McConnell, this is the second straight week you've come out to begin your press conference criticizing Donald Trump. Can you say categorically that you would not support him if you were the Republican nominee?
What I'm saying is it would be pretty hard to be sworn in to the presidency if you're not willing to uphold the Constitution. That's what I said, and I just said it again.
What about your personal support?
The family of Brian Sicknick chose not to shake your hand at today's ceremony, and they said it's because they're concerned you have not done enough to call out former President Trump's actions after January 6th and leading up to it. How would you respond to the family?
Yeah, I would respond by saying today we gave the gold medal to the heroes of January 6th. We admire and respect them. They laid their lives on the line, and that's why we gave a gold medal today to the heroes of January 6th.
Leader McConnell.
I think this could be it's also it's just to say the words. Not that I expect that.
I'm glad
Because Eddie wasn't upstairs.
Now batting for Manu Raju. Now batting for Manu Raju, Ali Zaslav. Zaslav. How are you? He's announcing the pinch hitter, the batting change in the order. Oh, take it on.
I'll break it down in case I can do it for you. So yeah.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
find out what.
I'm not going to find out right here. I got it.
Ganell is asking.
Tell us.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. Gotta get my stuff. Okay. I'm happy to be joined by Senators Durbin, Murray, and Stabenow. Now, today is a good day, not just because we had a great lunch, but because we're honoring some of the bravest among us, our Capitol Police officers. If you were here on January 6th, some of you were, you had a first-hand account of the heroism they showed that day. On a day when our democracy was under attack, the men and women of Capitol Police were quite literally fighting on the front lines to defend it. Today they'll be awarded the Congressional Gold Medal that they so rightfully deserve. And we just take off our hats to them. As you probably saw in the films, I was within 20, 30 feet of these awful people, these hooligans, these insurrectionists, and the Capitol Police protected me. They were great. Okay, but that's not the only thing on our agenda today. We'll be continuing negotiations to chart a path forward to fully fund the government for the next year in an omnibus and our military in the NDAA. This isn't an easy process, but it's important nonetheless for the well-being of our troops, for the preservation of our national security, for the tens of millions of Americans who look to the federal government for a wide range of basic services. Democrats and Republicans must work together to fully fund the federal government and pass an omnibus and an NDA quickly. On that, tomorrow we'll have an all-senators classified briefing on the latest developments in Ukraine. I'm confident senators will leave that briefing with a stronger understanding about how critical an omnibus is, not just to fund the government and keep our country moving and innovating, but to ensure we're providing our troops, our veterans, and our allies with what they need. Now, we have a lot of work ahead of us, and though there's a lot of negotiating going on around us, we're going to work doggedly until we come to an agreement. Leader McConnell and I have agreed to try and work together to make sure we get a year-long omnibus funding bill done. We hope it can be done this year, and each side is going to have to give in order to send an omnibus to the President's desk and avert a pointless, painful government shutdown. And today also marks one other important milestone. We're going to confirm our 89th and 90th judicial nominees to the federal bench. We're on pace to finish this year with more judges confirmed in the first 2 years of either of the previous 2 administrations. These nominees stand out not just in number, but in groundbreaking diversity. Listen to this statistic. 50% of the judges we confirmed are women of color. 50%. That's never happened before. I think that's more than have served in the judiciary for all time until we got here. And I'm confident that a more diverse bench will go a long way to cultivating our trust in our courts and our democracy. Today, because of what we Senate Democrats have done, our judiciary is more balanced, more diverse, more experienced than the one our country had 2 years ago. We're very proud of that. So we have a lot to be proud of over the last 2 years, a lot more to get done. We're rolling up our sleeves and working. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck, and I just want to echo his comments on the Judiciary Committee. As he mentioned, we're set to confirm the 89th and 90th lifetime judicial appointments later today. This breaks the records of previous presidents, and it shows an extraordinary amount of success on a bipartisan basis. Recall that it's a 50-50 Senate, an 11-to-11 committee, and we have managed to achieve some historic goals in that effort. Not only diversity, but the fact that after the 90th, we still have 33 pending on the calendar and 11 more that will be reported from the committee this year. So you're saying we don't have much time left. You're right. I hope we don't have much time left to get the job done well. But we look back to the first 2 years of the Trump administration and the decision with the cooperation of the Democrats for 36 of their judicial nominees to be considered without a cloture vote and 24 by voice vote. So far this session, only 2 have been agreed to by a voice vote on the floor. So there is room for success, even more so in the future if we can continue this bipartisanship. The women and men that we are bringing to the bench will change the face of the judiciary for the better. It will bring diversity and balance to a court room that needs it so badly. I'm glad the Senate Judiciary Committee has met this challenge. Senator Murray.
Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. There may only be a few weeks left in this Congress, but I can tell you Democrats are ready to get more done. Every one of us wants to make sure that we pass the strongest end-of-the-year package possible in a timely way. We absolutely need to make sure that government is funded. That is priority number 1. But as we have shown time and again in the past few years, we are not content with bare minimums. This is a Democratic majority that is ready to work. Whether it was passing the American Rescue Plan to get our country back on its feet, or the bipartisan infrastructure law to keep America moving forward, Senate Democrats have been busy working for the American people, lowering costs, and building a stronger economy for all of our families. We passed legislation to lower drug costs, bring back American manufacturing, keep the Postal Service running, as well as the first gun safety laws in 30 years, the biggest expansion for veterans care in decades, and the most significant climate legislation in our country's history. And let's not forget, as you just heard, we confirmed an incredibly accomplished jurist to the Supreme Court, not to mention many other qualified judges who are bringing much-needed expertise and representation to our nation's courts. And in case anyone thought we would slow down in the lame duck, just last week we passed the bipartisan legislation to protect same-sex couples and marriage equality. Democrats may have had the narrowest possible majority, but we have been determined to make the greatest possible difference for people back home. And we are not done yet. We have to fund the government. We have to keep the nation secure and the military equipped. And let's make progress on pressing issues where we do have bipartisan support, like pandemic preparedness, investing in mental health, strengthening our democracy, bolstering retirement and emergency savings, protecting our pregnant workers, and making sure our legal cannabis businesses can access credit. So to my Republican colleagues, let's work together on these ideas where we all agree, ideas which the American people are overwhelmingly supportive. We've still got a few weeks left in this Congress, and we are determined to make the most of them. Thank you.
Senator Stabenow.
Well, thank you. First, let me reiterate the fact that it doesn't get closer than 50-50 in the United States Senate, and yet we have been every single day delivering for people. And I want to also start by giving a shout out to the incredibly effective work of Senator Durbin, as chair of Judiciary Committee, and of course Senator Schumer, being laser focused. I'm proud of the fact the 90th judge today to be confirmed will be someone from Michigan, Kay Beam, to the district bench, and we will just keep going and going and going. But the reality is that since day one, Democrats have been delivering for the American people. We delivered with the infrastructure law, and you can see progress everywhere. In Michigan, you can barely go down the street without seeing orange cones. But we have 6,900 projects fixing roads, bridges, airports, and more, 2,800 bridges being repaired and replaced, 5,000 new clean energy buses for our children, getting folks to school and to work. We passed the major manufacturing bill, Chips and Science, which is literally bringing jobs home, which as a manufacturing state, I'm very, very excited about. President Biden is in Arizona today speaking about this, along with Senator Kelly. We have delivered on the Inflation Reduction Act, investing in clean energy manufacturing, and again, bringing jobs home. And these investments are putting us on track to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% in the next 8 years. 40% in the next 8 years is really, really important. And we are lowering costs for Americans. The average American household will save up to $1,000 on their energy bills this year. And the cost of prescription drugs, we know, is going down. For the first time, Medicare is going to negotiate prescription drug prices. And starting in January, which is not very far away, folks on Medicare who use insulin, who need insulin, are going to be able to cap their costs at $35 a month. And that's going to literally save lives. And just last week, we stood with our LGBTQ plus friends and family by protecting marriage equality. The reality is, over and over again, we are laser focused on getting things done to improve people's lives and to protect their freedoms. And we're not done. So among other things, we're going to be passing the National Defense Authorization Act, the Omnibus Appropriations Bill, which is so critical to both defend our country and to avoid devastating shutdown. And we're going to continue as Democrats just to continue to put people first and make people's lives and what they need the top priority for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Stabenow. Before I take questions, I want to show you my Democratic socks in hopes of good luck today in Georgia.
Senator Schumer. Senator Schumer. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Okay.
What do you make of this proposal in the House on getting rid of the vaccine mandate? I know that the administration, the Pentagon pushed for that, and will that be a problem if it comes over from the House?
Okay, well, look, we're still working on the bill, so I can't speak to that. But I will say COVID vaccines have saved lives. The military has had requirements about other vaccines for decades, and there hasn't been a problem. It's befuddling, but we're still working on it.
Senator Schumer, what's the status on the Electoral Count Act, and do you expect that will be passed by the end of the year?
The Electoral Count Act is very important to large members in our caucus, and I think a good number of people on the other side of the aisle. I'm very hopeful we will have that done by the end of the year.
Do you have any response to Leader McConnell saying that your sort of stance on trying to get marijuana legislation or permitting reform into the NDAA could sink it?
Well, look, this is something, again, that's had bipartisan support. We've been working with Republicans. It's a priority for me. I'd like to get it done. We'll try to discuss the best way to get it done. Yes?
The Center for Countering Digital Hate and the Anti-Defamation League both say that the volume of hate speech on Twitter has grown dramatically under Elon Musk's stewardship. The Anti-Defamation League says that there's an increase in anti-Semitic content on the platform and an increase in the moderation of anti-Semitic posts, would you be open to reviewing Section 230 of the Communication
Well,
Decency Act or taking any other steps to counter?
Look, I've always said that Section 230 is something that we should look at. The difficulty there is coming up with the right solution, but it's something I'd be open to looking at.
Peter Schumer,
Yes,
what do you make
right.
of
This
the-
nice man over here.
On immigration, the cinema proposal that came out plus tomorrow in the House, they're going to be voting on the e-cards. Senator Durbin has said that getting something done for the Dreamers is a big priority. Everything else you need to do.
Look, Senators Sinema and Tillis are talking, and I welcome people discussing it. It's something, obviously we'd very much like to get done, and we hope that those talks come to positive fruition. Last
Peter
one.
Schumer, what do you make of the protests breaking out worldwide of people standing up against the Chinese Communist Party for their COVID lockdown measures?
Well, look, I think that under Xi, China has become far more authoritarian, yet the Chinese people are far more democratic, small d, and they don't like it. Thank you, everybody.
Stick to the food.